Hey everyone, it's Marabelle Blue. Welcome to my coaching channel. If you are new here, I talk everything about mental health awareness, relationships, coaching, and taking accountability for your behaviors, which for some reason a lot of people don't do. And if you are not new, welcome back to my channel. It has been a while. Yes, I know. I wanted to talk about Legion's response. If you missed the episode that I talked about Risa Tisa on my Unfiltered channel, I did touch upon the experiences that I had with ShitShow. I know people were like, you need to share your story. I'm going to share it a little bit, but I wanted to talk about more of the red flags that people, I think, too much take assumption on. Like, right, if something happens, they assume that it's a red flag, and then the most obvious that is a red flag, nobody seems to see it. And I was I was the you're walking with a red flag. And I still try to make excuses in my head of what was that all about. If I didn't say it, if you are not new, welcome back. Please do hit subscribe and like and support this channel. I really want it to grow. And let's get started with the first thing that caught my eye was an account on TikTok called First Off My Opinion. So let's look a little bit at a story that he starts to tell about how he went out with a Risa Tisa. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you with First Off My Opinion on his first video about he dated Risa Tisa, which like throws everybody off, but he's sharing an experience that he had with a girl that he dated, which was like Risa Tisa in some sort of way. Anyway, I'll let you be the judge. Let's go ahead and watch this video.
Tisa. I know right now y'all like, Tom, you dated Risa Tisa? Like, yeah, I've dated her multiple times. So Wendy out here. The thing y'all gotta understand is I went through the comments and I saw so many judgmental comments about, what she did wrong, red flags she should have saw, all this stuff, right? But at the same time, it's like all these people who are commenting, yeah, y'all do the same thing. And like when people comment under my videos and they're like, well, Tom, where do you find me these women at with all these problems and all these women with all these issues? You are those women. That's what's so crazy to me. Everybody's ignoring the fact that they have their own personal bag of BS when they out here commenting in the comments. What? You are the problem. I am the problem. We all are the problem. We don't know what we're doing. How I dated this person. Look, on the first date, she told me, like literally in the first couple conversations, she's like, yeah, you're toxic. I can tell already. And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, you've done like two or three things right now that just basically are red flags. And I should get up and leave right now. Now, me, I'm sitting there like, what the hell is she talking about? And she's like, well, for one, you have your phone face down on the table, eating and talking to you. Why would I have my phone on the table as a distraction or have it face up as a distraction? Because I get a lot of notifications on my phone, even if I'm not using it. But the thing is, her logic was sound because most dudes be hiding information or hiding what they got going on with other women, on their phone. So I get that. But she went on to tell me the reason she was feeling that way is because of her previous relationship. And so basically, when she met this guy, he told her up front, he was like, hey, I really like you. Everything is going great, but I want to let you know that I got some things on my background that if you ever did a search on me, it would come up. Now, most of
Okay, so I'm going to stop the video from here because he said a mouthful in what, like the less than 2 or 3 minutes? Because I think TikTok now you can do 10 minutes, which sometimes people take advantage of unnecessarily. But this guy did not. He was very, very forthcoming in the beginning of his video. And I'm just going to pull my screen up. Here's the deal. He says in the beginning how everybody has all of these comments and they have so many things to say about other people. If you know the story of Risa Tisa, she did like a whole 55-part series, Who the F Did I Marry? The longer she stayed with this guy, the more she uncovered about his finances, about who he was, who his family was, who his relatives was. It was just a whole mess. And apparently he responded. He's calling her a liar. He's claiming that she had cheated on him, which I think is all lies. I think he just believes his lies and he's just going to come up with more lies to make himself look good because he's a pathological liar. And that's what liars do. They create more of the lies and they think that people are going to believe them, and maybe some people will believe them, but maybe those people have issues too, but like on a whole other level. Getting back to the experiences Risa Tisa had and uncovering all of these things. Now he's on this date. I wanted to say something about the issues. He said everybody has them. Yes, it's true. Everybody has them. Like, you're not perfect, neither am I. We all eventually uncover certain aspects of ourselves while we are getting to know other people. And maybe those aspects are very unbecoming. And maybe some of those are very good aspects that you kept hidden inside, that maybe you just didn't find yourself in a vulnerable place to be able to be that way with somebody else other than the person that you're with now. Okay, so now that we've taken care of that, let's go to my own personal experience when I broke up with my ex back in 2000. Now, I was with this person for 6 years. And for me, back then, that was a very long time. Probably the longest relationship that I ever had, because I have yet to be with anybody for that long since then. And it's not because of anything that anybody else is doing. It's just some people were at the wrong place, the wrong time. Some people were not ready to be in a relationship. It just really all depends. What had happened thereafter, like when I moved out here, was when the mistakes began. And before I get into the mistakes, I just want to share with you what it was like in the year 2000. I had been in this relationship for 6 years. We broke up in 2000, and the internet was new, dating sites were new. I'm telling you, like, dating sites were like popping up left and right. And you don't realize how there were people like catfishing just to talk to you, just to see, what rise they can get out of you. What I'm trying to be very careful, but like the word that I'm trying to use that I can't use, but let's just say people were trying to create fantasies and have those fantasy exchanges on the phone with you. And then come to find a lot of the times it wasn't their phone number, or if you had sent scathing pictures. But just think about it that way. This is all of the things that was going on back when the internet was very, very new. And through these dating sites, I pretty much discovered that if I invested too much in talking to somebody via online, on the phone, or texting, because texting was very new. We had like those phones you had to like hit the button just to get to the letter that you wanted. It was like super crazy. But back then, a lot of people invested more time in talking as opposed to going out and meeting, which was also very frightening. I mean, this is like kind of where MySpace comes in. Tom pretty much, I think he understood the logic of there are a lot of people talking to each other. There are a lot of people establishing relationships. I'm going to have all of these different parties in different cities, and then everybody can kind of come together in a public setting. And if they like the person, they like them. And if they don't, they don't. They can move on to whoever it is that they meet at these parties. So I appreciated Tom's logic when it came to these different MySpace parties, because I got to meet a lot of people that I was talking to via online. Really was not in a position where I wanted to meet them in person and not find an escape route if there was somebody that I didn't want to be with. I also started to learn things about myself. Like when I was really interested in somebody, I would be very shy. I wouldn't say much. And if I wasn't interested in somebody, I would do a lot of the talking. And I was hoping that in the way that I was conveying myself in the talking, they would realize that I'm just kind of like friend vibing. But it really did come down to if they asked me out again, I would turn them down. I would not play games. I was not in a position to play games with other people. And I didn't want people playing games with me, these emotional head games that's just really rude and disgusting. Like, if you like me, then show that you like me. And if you don't, then leave me alone. It's that simple. And a lot of people, they just wanted to string you along. They wanted to throw breadcrumbs, especially if you did show interest in that person. So I did not want to do that. I wanted to make sure people understood if I was not interested, but I was interested in friendship, that perhaps we can go that route because there wasn't a physical attraction that I felt towards them. And if they felt that towards me and they thought, oh, well, maybe if I would be her friend, maybe it would change down the line. I'm a Taurus. I'm pretty much, when I make a decision, it's pretty much done. And it's not going to go another way. It just isn't. And in the beginning, it was fun. I was dating, I was meeting different people. And a lot of the guys that wanted to settle down, I was like, no, like, I'm not interested in you at all. And then the ones that I did want to settle down with, they wanted to fool around. And what was I going to do? Like, I wasn't going to force them. You can't force someone to be in a relationship that is not interested in being in a relationship. I mean, think about it. Okay. Ladies, I'm talking to my ladies now. If you think that what you have in between there is almighty powerful that will make a man change his mind and want to be in a relationship, guess what? It's not that powerful. Yes, it's great, but it's not a power trip to try and get a man to change his mind about wanting not to be in a relationship. If he does not want to be in a relationship, I dated an attorney. He was like, I am not interested in being exclusive. I'm not interested in being in a relationship. And I was like, yeah, okay, no problem. He was good looking, he was sexy. And I was like, I'm going to change his mind. And guess what? I didn't change his mind. He's still single to this day. Okay. But that was an example. My ego is not all that great that I could change somebody else's mind. Was that a red flag? No, it was not. It was not a red flag at all. What, first off, my opinion had brought up when the girl was like, oh, well, you turned your phone down. And for me, that is a red flag. And for him, he looked at it like, I get a lot of text messages, whatever. And I didn't want my dinner to be disrupted with my phone flashing all of the time. And I'm sure that had he left it up, that probably would have brought up issues for her as well. Now, I haven't gotten into the whole story of what happened with her, and we'll get to that in a minute. I just wanted to bring that part up just to tie everything in of what red flags should we really be looking for. So I'm going to go back to the video just so that he could complete this because it's not very long. That's the one thing. It's not like 50 parts, but it is very, very enticing what he talks about. So let's go back to, first off, my opinion.
Most of us would say right then and there, that's a red flag. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to break up with this guy right now. I'm done. But she didn't. She listened to what he said. He told her, hey, I've got a charge for gross sexual imposition on my background. It happened when I was 25. I didn't know I was dating a 17-year-old girl. She told me she was 19 and went to the university in our town. Now, think about it. If I'm 25 5 years old and I meet some girl who's close to 18 and she's talking well, looking well, I'm not doing a background check at 25 on nobody. So I can see how somebody might have slipped up and got a charge that way. But this story gets way deeper than that, buddy. So she got past the initial charge and said, you know what, I'm going to see what happens with the relationship. But it just kept getting deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. So about 2 weeks into the situation, they get intimate. Now, this is all literally on our first date, sitting in a restaurant. She's telling me this story. And so she's like, we get intimate. And I'm like, so, okay, was that problematic? Were you not compatible? You know, I'm asking a couple questions. So she's like, you know, it was just different. And I'm like, different how? And so she's like, well, he didn't penetrate me where he should have. Now, at this point, the waiter walked past while she said that. She was just like, the waiter was like, and she just kept telling me all this stuff, right? Now, for me, her telling me all this stuff should be a red flag because she's telling me all this stuff. I don't know her from Adam. This is the first encounter we've ever been on. So she tells me he eats her out, has anal sex with her, and doesn't put it in her coochie. And this went on for weeks and months. He never hit the coochie, always her butt, always ate her out. Once again, that's different, but we're all different. We all do stuff that's different and weird and suspect, but we think it's absolutely normal because it's our lives and we're so used to doing what we want to do. So we don't really even think about how different and unnormal the behavior that we put out in the world is. And so, like, you know, when I'm watching this 50-part series on this woman and everybody's just like, why did she? Yeah, you do it too. Now back to the story. Make a long story short, this dude ends up arrested again for gross sexual imposition of a minor. He was, you know, because at this point he's in his 40s and he was dating a teenager and got caught while he was dating her, actually multiple teenagers. Now, she rolled with him on these charges.
Now I have to stop because not for nothing, but if a man told me that's what he was doing, I would not, under any circumstance. You hear what I'm saying? I would not, because that is a person who has real world issues that I want nothing to do with. Now back to the story.
Told her, like, hey, I was providing some tutoring services. These girls are just really raunchy in the streets and they got caught doing something else. And they told their parents that, you know, I was the one they was messing with. I never touched these girls. And so she backed him up. She got him a lawyer. She paid for his defense. She was locked in. I want to be locked in. I want to be locked in with my man. They go to trial. Now, remember, she's telling me all this on the first date. So they go to trial. She is locked in 10 toes deep until she hears the witness testimony. Little girl gets on the stage and she's like, you know, Mr. So and so was so nice in the beginning and he was so truthful and honest about things. And the first time we had sex, I just thought it was strange. He only wanted to have sex in my butt after he ate me out. The other little girl gets on the stand, says the same exact story. So now the girls that I'm on the date with, she's sitting in the audience of the court and she's conflicted because that's what he did to her. And so at that point, she was able to step outside of the situation and see how far and how stupid and how many red flags that she just hit go on that she had did. And so at that point, when I went out with her, that was her first date in like 3 years because she was so traumatized by that experience. And I say all that to say we're judging people about driving past red flags or, you know, moving forward past red flags. And I'm here to say we all do it. We all do it. And it doesn't matter how smart you are. It doesn't matter how intelligent you are. It doesn't matter how lonely you are. It doesn't matter how much experience you have. We just don't see red flags like the people who are not in the situation. Now, I could tell you right now, y'all can all be like, that was stupid. She should have never did that. Da 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 da. But she did. And so have you. You have had red flags in a situation and you have drove right past them. And if you say you didn't, you lying. So I say all that to say, yes, I've dated a Risa Tisa, and so have you been a Risa Tisa. So quit judging that woman. Look at your own life, and I'll see you in the next one.
Everything that man said, it is very, very true. So I'm going to share a little bit of my story. I don't want to get into the whole details because, like I said, it's still very difficult for me to talk about, but I will share a little bit of what happened. I'm looking at my notes and I'm saying to myself, why are you looking at your notes? You lived the disaster. You don't need notes for that. But I just want to make sure that I stay on point with okay. I moved out here at the end of 2016. I moved out here in December. So 2017 rolls around. It's like a whole new year, a whole new, brand new start. And I was very, very lonely. Believe it or not, my ex, who I broke up with in 2000, we became friends like years later. And he had a girlfriend who I met. She's a very, very nice girl. They ended up getting married. But anyway, I digress. He stayed here for a little while because he was having some friction with her. To hear them arguing all night long, I was not appreciative at all. And it was funny because I said to myself, wow, like the last person that I lived with was with him. And like here he is staying in my 2-bedroom apartment. When he left, I was sad because I was alone again. And I'm like, damn, I really don't have any friends out here. I really don't want to be friends with my coworkers because they just didn't seem like the type of people that I would hang out with after work. And a lot of my friends I talk to on the phone. Out here, we don't change time. So during the winter months, we're 2 hours apart. And then during the summer months, we're 3 hours apart because everybody changed their clocks. I was writing a book, and in my fantasy brain, I felt like if I finished this book, because it's a 3-part series, and I was writing book one, the love of my life would magically appear. And it was around June that I had finished writing the draft. I went on to this site. To me, it was like a joke. I would go on there just to basically goof on people, whatever. He was on that site. And I was like, oh, wow, he looks like a good looking guy. It was like a guessing game. You had to guess. I forgot that part. So you had to guess who the person was, like a secret admirer guess. And I picked him, and long and behold, it was him. So I went and I sent him a virtual drink. And he replied back. And I was like, oh, wow, like it's happening. I finished my book. I finished my first draft. It's happening. It's happening. And it happened very, very quickly. So quick that I had concerns on his responses, the way he came off, because I go by this name, by this pseudonym, Marabelle Blue, right? Everybody knows that it's not my real name, and I don't feel the need to disclose my real name all over social media. Nobody needs to know that. Now, if you Google me, you will find a lot of different things. You will find Marabelle Blue Unfiltered. You'll find marabelleblue.com. A lot of different things that the internet will generate over the course of time. My thing was like the more we talked, the more my antennas went up. I asked him, did you Google me? And he just completely fell apart. Literally, his response was, no, I didn't. And I said, well, why not? Like, why wouldn't you? Not because of me, but because you want to make sure that this person that you're talking to is being forthcoming with you. And he just broke down in tears. And I'm saying to myself, um, why is he crying? I was so confused. Like, why are you crying? Like, clearly I'm real because you're talking to me. I'm just curious to know, like, if you Googled me, did you have any questions or concerns? And it was just this whole dramatic response. And I found it strange. I found it strange how he didn't Google me. He didn't want to feel like I wasn't a real person. I mean, my face, Google, my websites, my social media, like it's all me. You did a video call with me and it's still me. And I just found that strange. There was another time that we were going to do a video call. Like we usually set everything up because I wanted to get home. I wanted to feed my dogs and cats and walk my dogs and kind of just unwind before I sat down to talk to him. Because there were times that we would talk for like an hour or two. And he had mentioned that he was in the military. Now he's from another country. He's from Canada. So I was not familiar with the military there, nothing. So he had mentioned in like either his emails or a phone call that we had that he was in the military, right? So we set up this video call after I've already taken care of my pets, and the video pops up and he's wearing his military hat. And I'm like, what is that? There was an odd vibe that I got from when that video popped up and he was wearing that military hat. I went out with somebody who was in the military and he had all of his military stuff and he did not wear it. He did not throw it in my face while I was in the military. I just felt that wearing the hat on the call was super egotistical and super disrespectful. Like, why are you wearing this hat? Why are you wearing this hat? Why do you feel the need to show off in that way? There was no humility in that moment. And it definitely weirded me out. And I remember I was talking to my ex at the time, who's a friend by now. And I was like, yeah, like he called me and he was wearing like his military hat. And he was like, that's strange. Like he even found it strange. So it was like confirmation that was weird. Why would you do that? Why would you feel the need to put this hat on? Like, what were you trying to prove? If it was a form to impress me, I was not impressed. And I even felt at some point, maybe I should just like cut him off, like not speak to him at all. Just ghost him, which is what I should have done. But no, me being the kind person, we're turning over a new leaf. We're living a new life. We're in another state. Things are brand new and we're going to make better choices. And so I just brushed it under the rug. When I think back what was going on in 2017, when I think back of where I had put on weight. I was not happy with the way that I looked, and I was going forward and making changes. They were coming slow, but I was trying my best. And I think back, like, for him not to Google me, like, I'm sure that he did and that he was lying. He just used the waterworks to try and gain my sympathy. And it's not until you are far removed from the situation that you start to see certain things that you didn't see immediately, or you did see them, but you didn't want to believe that it was real. It was just an unusual circumstance for that moment. And then here was the super bizarro thing. My parents decide that they are going to retire and they're going to move out here and we're going to buy a house together, basically live happily ever after. And I told them they will be very happy here. Don't worry. By the time we made the decision, it was before he came along. Then, like, once the decision was solidified, it was like I was in a relationship. And I surpassed something very, very important. I would say in about a week of talking to him, he tells me that he is in love with me, which was the bizarre to the nth degree bizarre. I'm saying to myself, you don't even know me and I don't even know you. Like, I can't even exchange those words with you. I'm not going to tell you those words because I don't feel them. I don't know who you are. And for you to have these strong feelings, it was just very, very weird. It was weird. It was strange. I never, ever had anyone ever in the whole time that I dated people to say those words in such a short amount of time. So when we decide, my parents and I, that we're going to buy a house, now his name nowhere near this house. I had no plans on putting his name anywhere in anything that I'm doing or was doing at that time. So I don't know if in his mind, I don't know. But anyway, when I start looking at houses, I found this one realtor because I went through like a couple of realtors and it was almost as if they were showing me things that I really did not want. It was not big enough. It was not nice enough. It was out of the way. It was just not a match. And I don't know how I found this particular guy, but he was excellent. And he set up a showing of like 12 different houses, I think. The first three we went by fairly quickly. I think two of them were like in the same neighborhood, the other one was a little further of a distance. Then we came to this house. Right now I'm taking pictures, I'm taking videos, I'm just trying to mentally record everything and then also record everything on video so that I can look back and see, like, gauge what vibe, what did I like, what did my parents like, because I was sending them pictures too. I mean, we're all buying this house together. Right now, one of them, I took a picture of the pantry area, right? This house. I liked it. The realtor, he was like, oh, like he fell in love with the house more than I did. Like, the backyard was something that I had never seen before. It was like coming into another world, the way the previous owners had fixed up the backyard. Okay. So I referred to him as Shit Show, in case you didn't know. I'm sharing these different pictures and videos with Shit Show, and I'm talking about the in the contract, right? You'll ask for certain things from the previous homeowner, maybe something needs to be fixed or whatever. They wanted to take the refrigerator with them, and I talked about this. I could have sworn I did. I said something in my last video that the refrigerator should have smacked me. But anyway, I'm showing him the pictures and I'm explaining to him the contract and how everything works and what we're stipulating, what we want, what we don't want, what needs to be fixed, what doesn't need to be fixed, etc. And I told him, I said they wanted to take the fridge with them, but we worked out something where we're going to keep the refrigerator. And he goes, "Can you negotiate?" That was the word I was looking for. "Can you negotiate keeping the food in the pantry?" I don't know anyone who negotiates in a contract when you're buying a house for the food. That should have been the warning right there. Get rid of this dude because he's trying to mooch off of you. He's looking at you like, this girl is going to get this big old house and I'm going to be living in the lap of luxury. I won't have to work. I won't have to do anything. We'll get married and I'll get my papers and I won't have to do a thing. I'm almost 100% positive this is what was going through his mind.
I'm in my 40s, but I haven't got any financial assets to speak of. Also, my boss said he's probably going to fire me this week. Wow.
I just masturbated.
That makes me horny. I hope this date ends in sex.
I don't find you attractive. Oh. Shall we?
Yeah,
After you.
thanks.
So for anyone to think in their mind, like, what was she thinking? What was Risa Tisa thinking? It's the same way we have thought once upon a time when we meet somebody. There's just something in them that you really like, but the other part of you is saying, WTF? Like, what is going on here? And should I be concerned? And should I be worried? And then the other part was my low self esteem. I was overweight. Who's going to want me? Nobody's going to want this. Nobody's going to want to deal with somebody heavy. I was going through the gamut of myself. Like, this guy's in love with you. So what if you're not in love with him? He's in love with you. Like, I remember a friend of mine, she's not alive anymore, but she had said, you know what? Just love the one you're with. And that, I mean, I'm sure that she loved her husband, but I was not in that mindset. I was not in love with this man. I just wasn't. But the low self esteem just overtook my logic in saying, who is going to want you? This is where my mindset was at the time. So now we're going to talk about, we're going to go back to, first off, my opinion. We're going to go into his video because he goes into a part 2 of the date with this girl. And she talks about like the whole courtroom thing. You definitely want to not miss this.
So I dated a Risa Tisa part 2, and this was under heavy demand. As she was sitting in the courtroom after she had heard, the testimony from the two girls, now she's sitting there probably for like 20 minutes after they didn't clear the courtroom. One of the bailiffs come up to her and he's like, hey, you okay? She just sitting there, and she tell him a little bit of why she even there. And so he like shocked, you know what I'm saying? Cause he done been behind the curtain. He done read the psych profile. He done did a full background. He done seen all the stuff on his background. He like, yeah, this dude is, da 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 da. So she get to talking to the bailiff, telling him, just how bad she feel and how stupid she feel and all this stuff, right? Bailiff walks her to her car. He don't feel so bad, trying to pick her up, right? Because she's basically about to fall apart at this point, right? Y'all. Now remember, all of this is being told to me on our first date. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like taking this all in. I mean, it's like, I mean, a made for TV special. I'm just sitting there like in utter amazement, listening to the story. The bailiff, gets her number. They talk on the phone or whatever. Why? Within 30 days, did she marry the bailiff? I know what y'all thinking. But this is all absolutely true. At this point, it's getting late. We've been at the restaurant, for a minute, right? And so she's telling me just a little bit more about what happened between her and the bailiff. So the bailiff had a side hustle where he was fixing people's credits and stuff like that. So, she had basically tapped out her all of her finances to help fight this case for this dude or whatnot. So the bailiff was like, you know what, I can help you, get back on your feet with your credit or whatnot, because this is what I do on the side. I got a whole bunch of customers and I can help you fix this. So she allows the bailiff to help fix her situation. Now, this is all like they've been talking on the phone for maybe like 2 or 3 days. So she signs up, with his little program or whatever, signs the release, gives him all the information he needs or whatever to start fixing her credit or whatever and getting herself back on track. She said like after maybe like 48 hours, she checked her credit report. Her credit had jumped by like 85 points, like instantaneously. He was like, hey, there's some other stuff I could do to really, put some money in your pocket and help you out real. And she's like, wow, this is great. You know what I'm saying? Because I didn't know how I was going to do this and how I was going to do that. But he had worked his magic and got her stuff back together. And so at this point, they're dating. She going over his house, he coming over her house. He all these gestures, flowers at work, lunches, impromptu picnics. Like She was like, this dude was perfect. Everything she ever wanted in a dude, he was basically doing. And coming out of the situation she was in, she was just like, I just kept going with it because it felt so good. So, make a long story short, he's like, let's go to Vegas. And she's like, I've never been to Vegas. That sounds fun and exciting. Da 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 da. So he takes her to Vegas. Make a long story short.
Now, let me stop. Who thought that this guy was up to no good when he told her that he could fix her credit? Raise your hands. Put comments down below. Say you already knew that this guy was up to no good, the bailiff. Okay, because she jumped from one relationship to another. She didn't even give herself a break. Let's continue.
For sure, he gets her to Vegas. They had this. They go to some shows, go to some concerts, go to some restaurants. I mean, they do the whole Vegas experience, right? And so as they're doing this whole Vegas experience, he's like, you know what I'm saying? I just never found nobody like you. Da 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 da. We should get married. Now we're still at the restaurant, right? So the waitress comes and brings the check. And so I pay the check or whatever. And she's like, all right, we should get out of here. Now, in my head, I'm like, okay, ain't gonna leave me on the edge of my seat and I ain't gonna get the rest of this story. I am invested at this point, right? So we in the car. I'm taking her home. She's sort of still talking about the wedding and all that stuff that happened at the wedding or whatnot. And I'm like, I'll need to get the rest of this story. Pulls up to her house.
Okay, I'm going to stop there, right? I want to talk about my next point, which is making hasty decisions. I learned a long time ago when I was making recovery meetings, when I was making 12-step meetings, don't make decisions out of haste. In other words, if you're angry about a situation, don't make a decision in the midst of being angry, because chances are you're doing it out of revenge or out of spitefulness, whatever the situation is. When you're upset, you should take a break, step back, breathe, just take in the feelings, even if they are uncomfortable to take in. This girl, she was sitting in a courtroom listening to two young ladies describe something horrific that happened to them. The similar situation happened to her, but it wasn't horrific in the sense that she gave permission. But it was still an experience she had that she felt it was bizarre and strange to have. And instead of giving herself a moment, this bailiff, he just shot right in. He saw her coming. He saw her in the ways of, if she could be taken by this dude, I can probably do the same thing. I'm going to use this as an example, okay? You're at work. There's a coworker that you've come to know, but you really don't like them too much. But they do things to undermine your intelligence. Maybe they'll say things out of spite, or like, do you really know how to do that? Do you need for me to explain it to you? Kind of like this condescending tone that you don't appreciate. As a matter of fact, you know that not only can you do the job, but you can probably do it better than they can. They just feel the need to throw their weight around to you because they don't like you and you don't like them. Then a day comes, they just go over, above, and beyond, and the top of whatever it is that's going on, and you explode and curse them out. Now it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good for you because you reacted to them hastily, cursed them out, made a spectacle in the office. Now you're being called to HR because now you don't have a job. Because now you look like you're a difficult person. You're irate. You look like a danger to everyone else in the office, which is not a good thing. It's never a good thing to go off the deep end with anybody at work or anywhere else for that matter. We've seen it time and time again with all of these Karens. Yes, we have seen it, but it is never, ever a good thing to do because you will always look wrong. It's always good to take a step back, breathe, take in those uncomfortable feelings because they are going to pass. And for the girl, in her mind, she must have been thinking, oh wow, look, it's a savior. Like, this guy is gonna fix everything. I've done spent all this money on getting an attorney for this guy, and then come to find out everything he had mentioned that he didn't do, he actually did. And here's the proof, because these two girls are saying the same exact thing, the same experience that they had, I have. And this guy is going to fix everything. People were not designed to fix you and your problems. You have to learn to do that on your own. And if that means dealing with uncomfortable feelings, dealing with a grief of separation, yes, you should feel those feelings. There's nothing wrong with feeling those feelings because they will make you stronger in the end. Those feelings will help you make better decisions for your future. If you do not allow yourself to experience discomfort, to experience grief, and you just keep jumping from one relationship to another, you are never going to learn. You have to give yourself a break. I highly recommend it. I do, because even if you stay single for a long time, like I did, I still made a mistake, but I was in a new place. I was in a new state, getting to know new people. I had no friends out here. Guaranteed that if I was still living in New York City and I told one of my friends, look at this dude, they would have been like, you need to leave that alone because there's something wrong with that. I know they would have said that. And I probably would have gone out somewhere and met somebody new, and I would not have this story to share. When I think back of my situation, I think about the clear indications that was happening day by day, step by step. The crying, the waterworks. I mean, for anything, for anything. During that time, there was a police officer that I knew from my neighborhood who was killed by some random dude. She was inside like one of those trailers that they have parked out in the Bronx.
6 years after her death, a memorial today for the NYPD detective gunned down on the job. Detective Maya Sotis Familia was a mother of 3 and 12-year department veteran when she was killed while sitting in her mobile command unit. News 4's Gus Rosendale has more on today's remembrance as well as the family's fight for safety changes.
NYPD detective first class Mia Sotis Familia remembered as a New Yorker who loved her city and her family.
A part of me died that day.
Familia was shot in the head while sitting in the passenger side of a mobile command unit in Fordham Heights 6 years ago. Colleagues and loved ones reflected on her life today at this memorial service outside the 4-6 precinct.
I vividly remember the highway cop who came and picked me up just hours after I had said goodbye to my mother. After we said, we love you. We'll see you tomorrow.
By all accounts, Familia never saw the man who opened fire.
And he just randomly shot her. He didn't know who she was. He just hated cops, and that's what he wanted to do. And when a friend of mine contacted me to tell me that she had been killed, I was in a state of shock. I was crying. I mean, I'm far away. I can't be there to comfort my friends. So it was bad. And here I am alone. So I contacted him, and he literally left work to hear me cry on the phone. And I didn't like that. I didn't like the idea that you left your job, because he made it like he was in charge of something. He was in charge of nothing at all. He literally picked up and left his job because he needed to be there for me. You didn't have to go through that capacity. That's what a cell phone is for. You say to your manager, I need a break, I need to take this call, and then you go back to work. There's no reason for you to run home, which I thought was strange. It was not heroic of him to do something like that. So when I think about all of these different things that occurred, thinking about it now, yeah, I was like, what were you thinking? I still go back to what were you thinking? Why didn't you tell anybody what's going on? Because perhaps they could have clarified. And there's the flip side to that. The flip side to that is when you're sharing with somebody about a potential love interest and you say something that's not normal, they're going to look at you and wonder, where is your head at? Like, how are you missing these weird things that shouldn't occur when somebody is pursuing you? And what happens is you catch a resentment. Well, how could they say that? If they're my friend, they wouldn't think that way. They wouldn't say those things. We've all been there, okay? I have been there. In the long run, you realize that your friend was really advising you and being your real friend and not telling you what you thought you should be hearing. And there were a lot of the inconsistency, the inconsistent behavior, the storytelling about how things were taken away from him, how it was other people's fault. There was a lack of taking responsibility for your own actions. And he did not realize that even though I found some of these stories suspicious, I was paying attention, because when he was actually physically here, the stories then changed and they weren't matching up to what he originally said. And then when I would bring that up, he would look at me, that's not what I said. Because then he would start his little gaslighting thing. And I'm sitting back there like, I think I know what I heard. I know what you said. And when you originally told the story, because I done repeated it to one of my friends verbatim, that's not what you said. And you're sitting here and you're taking me for a fool. I should have known something was wrong from the beginning. And now you're here. And now I have to find a way to get rid of you because I don't want you here anymore. I don't feel what I thought I felt. I was not ever in love with you. How do I get rid of this person? Because it wasn't a matter of you need to leave. It was a matter of me being safe, first and foremost. Because he decided to bring two things here. It went through an actual process. Like it wasn't like just bought here illegally. I did not want to wind up on 48 Hours Mystery. So I had to be very cautious on how I was going to tell him it's not working out. Like, it's never going to work out. You are a person I do not want to be with. I want somebody who is going to be inspiring, who's not going to gaslight me, who's not going to make up stories, who's not going to sit there and not want to work and have their hand out and not give me anything in return, but just keep taking. I already had reached my wit's end. And it wasn't until my parents got here, they started to see for themselves, what the hell is she doing with this guy? Like, what is she doing? We did not raise this girl to pick somebody like this. So there were a lot of issues happening in that moment. And I felt like I couldn't even keep up with myself, with everything that's going on. Because I have to pay bills. I'm trying to get my parents acclimated. I have to work. And this dude is just like lingering around here, contributing nothing. So let's go back to the story now.
You're just really easy to talk to. And I know I probably gave you way too much information on the first date, but I guess I just needed to get it off my chest and whatnot. And me, I'm gonna just keep it a buck. I wanted to hear the rest of the story, and I didn't want to not get the rest of the story. So I was like, hey, no, you're fine, you're fine. Coming out of those type of situations, sometimes you just need a release of information just so you can get it off your chest. I understand. I really enjoyed your time, your energy, the ability you were able to share. What you got planned tomorrow? Like, we can grab coffee and maybe go for a walk or whatnot. You know me, I'm laying in on thick. I want the rest of the story. So, make a long story short, she agrees. We set up to go get coffee in the morning. In the morning, you know what I'm saying? We go get coffee, and she's telling me about the rest of the story. So the bailiff, he fixed her credit. He somehow he was able to he basically fixed her credit, created an LLC in her name, had the LLC funded with capital. All of this like within 45 days. And I've seen different stuff on the internet when people say they can do all this stuff or whatnot. So for her, it was like, man, this is really gonna help me out. I got a business. I can start doing stuff under my business or whatever. But then stuff started getting weird, right? She was like, her credit score started to go down. So like he said he had got her credit score like over about 2 months. He had got her credit score up to like eight something. And then it just started going down, down, down. And she hadn't done anything with anything. So she was just, curious. And so she asked him about it. And he was like, sometimes when they give you a whole bunch of capital up front, they start to, take it away or, your credit score starts to go down. So don't worry about it too much. Right. And so she's like, cool. And she has no reason to distrust the bailiff. For one, he's a bailiff at a court. You know what I'm saying? So he works for a judge. You know what I'm saying? He has all these other customers, da 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 da. After about maybe a week or two, she decides to pull her own credit, right? Separate than what, he had been providing or whatever. So she pulls up the credit and she sees that she has an American Express Platinum, a Discover card, Inspire, like she got, and they all got credit lines of like 75, $100,000, like all this, capital, or I mean, credit or whatnot. But some of them are like maxed out. And she's like, I don't even know where these cards are coming from. But then she looks, she gets the credit report, she calls the companies and she gets access to the online portal, which has already been set up. And she sees the whole trip to Vegas was on that credit card. All the gifts, all the gestures, all on the credit card, everything. But then she starts to see other charges, like in other cities, other.
Now we're going to do a part 2. I want to play other videos. And let me tell you something. I'm up to, with everything that I've been doing, I'm like looking at my cards and I'm like, you are up to card 13. Look at all these notes I was making. I was not even playing, like everything was coming out. And I do want to touch on a lot of other things that I want to talk about when it comes to red flags and mind games and the escalation of commitment. I talked about the escalation of commitment a while ago. It came to business because that's what the model was by Barry M. Stahl. He wrote a paper. He's a psychologist, if I'm hoping that I said his title correctly, where he talked about the escalation of commitment in business. And believe it or not, a lot of people make the same mistakes and expecting different results, which is the definition of insanity. So I'm going to talk about that in part 2. I'm going to leave it here for now. I hope that you enjoyed this first part of red flags and what to look out for. We are definitely going back to things that, first off, my opinion had brought up, things that I even discovered about myself through a questionnaire that he is selling on his website. And with all that being said, I want to hear your comments. What are red flags that maybe I didn't bring up in this first part that you had experience with? And until then, always remember, be good to yourself, be good to each other, and most importantly, take care of you. Bye, everybody.